There's a legal battle coming out of Colorado. Colorado v. the Trump administration and Grok XAI. Stay tuned. We're going to see this battle royale play out. All right. That woo-wee is not what my voice is used to doing, but I'm glad I did it. Very exciting for you listeners at home, I'm sure. I'm shaking my head in case you're just listening to this. All right, we're going to get into what I find to be a very interesting legal battle between the state of Colorado and what it wants to do with AI law, and Elon Musk's XAI, and a third party who just came in, the U.S. Department of Justice. Here's what's going on. Okay, the U.S. Department of Justice and XAI are challenging the state's regulatory authority. Critics argue that these mandates from Colorado violate the First Amendment by interfering with the expressive choices developers make when programming algorithms. We're going to get back to this in a second because that is it's very interesting. Potentially treating software design as protected speech. The federal government has intervened, claiming that law imposes discriminatory ideologies, and creates a chaotic patchwork of state-level rules that burden interstate commerce. This confrontation could serve as a pivotal moment for the judiciary to decide if AI development constitutes a form of high-tech expression shielded from government control. Ultimately, the outcome may determine whether innovation is stifled by localized restriction or governed by a single uniform national framework. This, my friends, is a big effing deal. Janis Point, our sponsor, turn AI risk into defensible action. Janis Point is a Bloomberg-style decision platform. It's made for municipal AI governance. It brings together the most decision-relevant intelligence across policy, procurement, legal risk, peer city activity, and vendor oversight. It then turns that intelligence into practical workflows for due diligence, documentation, and performance tracking. The result is a clearer, more defensible way for city leaders to evaluate AI tools, manage risk, and, of course, justify adoption. JanisPoint.com. All right. We're going to get into this now. Colorado's AI law, scheduled to take effect on June 30th, 2026. Coming up, folks. Attempts to address algorithmic discrimination by imposing risk mitigation and disclosure requirements on developers of high-risk AI systems. So a high-risk AI system is employment, housing, healthcare, and financial services. However, in the broader context of AI regulation, these requirements have become a center of major legal and political clash over constitutional rights and federal versus state power. This is such a tricky place to be in. First Amendment and Commerce Clauses challenge. Elon Musk's company, XAI, filed a lawsuit to block the law, arguing that the algorithmic discrimination requirements violate the First Amendment. This is a very interesting argument here. XAI asserts that every design choice made when developing an AI like Grok is an expressive act, reflecting the developer's values. The company argues that SB 24205, which is what they are calling it in Colorado, very clever naming, unconstitutionally compels speech on continuous public issues and restricts how developers design their systems. Furthermore, love the term furthermore when reading legal docs, XAI argues the law violates the Dormant Commerce Clause because it places massive burdens on AI developers nationwide, potentially creating a Boulder effect, which I hope is a really clever pun, Boulder, Colorado, and Boulder effect, where Colorado's strict rules become the de facto standard for the entire country. If you're making a product, I'm going to put this in plain terms, if you're making a product and you need that product to work in all 50 states, and you're going to have to make that product work for the most strict state so then it can work in all of them. Federal intervention and the 14th Amendment. The conflict escalated significantly when the U.S. Justice Department intervened in the XAI's lawsuit. I wonder why they came over, transferring a single company challenge into a direct confrontation between the Trump administration and the state of Colorado. For those of you that aren't in politics, the state of Colorado tends to be blue and the Trump administration tends to be red. I don't believe either side is necessarily out for the general population's AI future or safety, but probably power. Sorry for that hot take on both sides. Probably just lost a lot of listeners there. All right. Specifically, the federal government objects to the law requiring companies to guard against unintended discriminatory effects, while simultaneously allowing for description aimed at promoting diversity. Assistant Attorney General stated that laws requiring companies to infect their products with woke DEI ideology are illegal. The federal push for uniform regulation, we'll get into that. Colorado was the first state to pass a comprehensive AI law in 2024, but even the governor expressed concerns at that time. The federal intervention in Colorado's law is part of a broader strategy by the Trump administration to stop the spread of patchwork state AI laws. Following a December executive order, the DOJ formed a task force explicitly to litigate against state AI policies that clash with the federal government's goal of establishing a single, uniform legislative framework for AI across the United States. Now, is that something that we want? The majority of my business is figuring out, both in public and private sectors, governance. So these types of topics are in my wheelhouse, and realistically, you can go back and forth. I think states should be and should have control over, the physical properties, certainly, of AI. Do they want data centers? Do they want different, electrical grid? Do they want to tap into water? All the things that come with the physicalness of training AI. Should the AI companies have to change their product in all 50 states? That is probably not horribly realistic. However, it is realistic that cities and states should be concerned about what their people are getting from an AI chatbot. And of course, we have a patchwork of 50 states that have their own personalities, we'll call them. So I don't think there's an easy answer on this. However, I think the precedent lies with having some sort of uniform, at least broad framework, and then people can kind of decorate their house framework as they go. This is not a new thing. There have been about 1,000 AI-related bills that have come across legislative sessions and have ignited intense concern over disjointed patchwork across the country. The fundamental problem with state-by-state patchwork is that regulating AI at a foundational model or data development creates severe extraterritorial impacts that inherently stretch far beyond the individual state's borders. What they're saying in this bolder clause is that, what we said earlier, that because of they're going to have to design for the strictest state, that state then causes all the other states to have the same restriction. Last piece of this, in its lawsuit against Colorado AI law, again, SB 24205, XAI argues that the legislation violates the Dormant Commerce Clause by directly regulating AI development and deployment activities that occur entirely outside of Colorado. The core issue is that the accommodating a single state's strict AI requirements places a massive burden on developers, and it is practically impossible to comply without fundamentally changing how AI is developed on a nationwide scale. So basically, it's saying, hey, you're one of 50. You shouldn't be able to tell me how to do this. If the courts fail to recognize how these state laws place an undue burden on interstate commerce, the technology sector will experience what is referred to as a Sacramento or Boulder effect. I like Boulder effect because it has a pun there. Under this dynamic, single most stringent state law functionality becomes the de facto federal regulation because the interconnected nature of AI technology forces companies to adopt a uniform nationwide standard to remain compliant. Consequently, the regulatory choice of one state will inherently override the preferences of others, even Americans living in states that deliberately choose a more innovation-friendly approach to AI, such as, in this article, it says, such as Utah. I don't know why we're picking Utah, but all right. So the takeaway from this is these battles absolutely need to happen. And if you are concerned about AI, your city, your state should be involved in these conversations. I don't care. I'm from Wisconsin. I live in the city of Milwaukee. Milwaukee is not known for it being at the top of the spear in regards of technology. That being said, I'm trying to push our city government to start some standards, to start some governance, because we should take responsibility for our own house. And if it gets changed, at least we have went down fighting. Okay. So if you have any governance challenges in your city or your state that you are concerned about, I would love to hear about them. Please send them my way. Until the next time.